So good morning and welcome to Ivy Learn Content Partners. My name is Kathy Long. I'm the Senior Training Specialist for the Center for Instructional Technology. Today we have a guest speaker, Delilah Wilson, who's joining us from Cengage. The topic of our discussion today is how to set up your course using Cengage Materials. If you give me just a moment, we'll give Delilah presenter rights, and she'll be glad to start the presentation. Thank you again for joining us. Delilah, it looks like your microphone is still muted, so we're not hearing you if you're speaking.
My line is now unmuted. Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you now. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. So hello, everybody. My name is Delilah Wilson from Cengage Learning, and today we're going to be focusing on how you implement your Cengage materials within Ivy Learn. So your Cengage materials will likely be a program called SAM, or you may be even using MindTap. And we have instructors using other products, but the primary products used at Ivy Tech would be MindTap and SAM. So we're going to be talking about how you would implement those materials. So during today's session, we're going to focus on two different paths that you can go down. The first path is even though you may be teaching a face-to-face course, or if you're adopting the online shell, the first path is you're going to adopt the content from the statewide online Ivy Learn shell, and you're going to use that either for your face-to-face section, because maybe you're going to modify that template but use it as a starting point. So we'll be talking about how you can do that. And then the second path that you can go down is if you're teaching the face-to-face section and you want to just start to load your own Cengage content, so you're just going to start from scratch and load your own Cengage content within Ivy Learn. We'll be focusing on that as well. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be taking you down the first path, which is activating or pairing existing Cengage content from a statewide online shell that you've adopted. The second path would be loading your own Cengage content into a locally developed face-to-face shell that maybe you're creating. And that's going to consist of first creating your MindTap and SAM courses within Ivy Learn, and then linking to your various SAM or MindTap assignments into Ivy Learn to ensure that the grades sync into the Ivy Learn gradebook. And finally, we'll be talking about the new student registration process, which has changed slightly with the switch from Blackboard to Ivy Learn. As mentioned, if you have questions throughout the session, feel free to type them in the questions box, and we'll be answering those as we proceed through this training today. Okay, so with that being said, we're just going to jump right in, and I am going to log into Ivy Learn. So bear with me one moment. So let's assume I wanted to go down the first path. I wanted to take the statewide online course, adopt it for myself, and I can either use that course as is once I've adopted it, or I can make modifications to it. As you may probably already know, when you want to adopt one of those statewide online shells, you can locate them in the Commons area. Once you get into the Commons area, you have the ability to search by keyword. So for example, if I was teaching Boat 218, it's going to go ahead and type that in and see what comes up. Right. And right here, I can see that there is the Boat 218 statewide summer course. So if I want to adopt this for myself, I'm going to go ahead and click into it. And then to the right, I can see the different courses that I am teaching or I am associated with. So I'm going to go ahead and load this statewide shell into one of my existing Ivy Learn shells. And I do apologize that the names aren't necessarily matching, but I'm going to copy this boat 218 into this boat 101 shell. So once I select that, once I check the sections that I want to import this content into, I simply click on Import into Course. Right. And then you'll typically receive a message stating that you have successfully started the import and that it can take several moments for those changes to reflect in your course. So at this point in time, I'm going to go out to this course shell in Ivy Learn that I just copied content into. I'm sorry, I saw something pop up in the chat. So let me go ahead and close that. So I'm going to go ahead and go into that course. And the great thing about the content from the statewide online shells is that there are already instructions built into this course in the form of an announcement that talk about how you activate your Cengage content. So for example, if I go out to this announcements area, there's going to be an announcement that says instructors read and delete, and it lets you know that this announcement is for instructors. So after you get your course set up, you can go ahead and delete this announcement so that students aren't seeing it. Let's go ahead and click in that announcement, and as you can see, this announcement tells me you've adopted this statewide online course template. Here's a video that shows you how to activate your Cengage content. And there's also a link that references in this case, a SIM course key, but if you're using MindTap, it's going to direct you to the list of course keys that you would need to activate your content. So since I have copied the boat 218 content, I'm going to go ahead and click on that link that takes me out to the course keys, and I want to locate the course key for boat 218 in this area here. Okay, so now that I have that course key, I'm going to return back to my Ivy Learn shell. And what I want to do, if you were to watch this video, it would basically tell you to go out to the modules area and to locate the instructor resources. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and locate my instructor resources. Within the instructor resources area, I need to find it. Oh, here it is. Within the instructor resources area, you're typically going to find a link that references the SAM homepage. Technically, you can click on any SAM activity to go through this course pairing process, but just to make things consistent, we have indicated to click on the SAM homepage link. So the first time I do that, since you guys are new, since you're new to Ivy Learn, even though you've used Blackboard in the past, this is your first time using Ivy Learn. The first thing you will encounter will be a screen that tells you to enter in your Cengage login credentials. So that's typically going to be your Ivy Learn email address. And if you don't remember your password to your Cengage account, there's going to be a forgot your password. So that entering of your Cengage credentials is a one-time process. Once you enter in those credentials, you'll never be prompted to enter them again, which is why you can see that I wasn't prompted to enter my credentials. It just took me straight to this create a course in Cengage SAM. So once you enter your login credentials, you'll be taken to this page that you see here. And you have a couple of options. You'll see that you have an option to create a new Cengage SAM course. And You would not choose this option if you have decided to start with the statewide online course, because you're not creating a new course, you're copying some content that has been developed by somebody else. So if that's the case, you're going to choose copy a colleague's existing Cengage SAM course. And one of the things that you'll notice in the pairing key document is, for example, for this Boat 218, it tells me right here, the action required on my behalf is to copy a colleague's existing SAM course. So that should help clarify what you would need to do if you're going to be adopting that statewide online course. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that option, and as you can see, it asks me for a course key, and I've already obtained that course key, so I'm going to go ahead and plop it in and click verify. Now that I've clicked verify and the system has confirmed that that key is actually a valid course key, it's going to ask me for my course name. So if this was my summer, Boat 218 section, I can just type in my section name. You can, if your section is, if you want to put your course name and your section name to be as specific as possible, you can enter that. So only the fields with a red asterisk are required. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my start date. Please use your actual course start date, because we do offer a grace or a trial period for students, and that grace period is going to start on the date that you indicated your course start. So if my course started, for example, on the 22nd, I would select the 22nd. And don't worry, your students will still, if they log in a day or two earlier, they'll still be able to access their content, but this is what's going to drive their grace period. And then you're going to go ahead and put in your course end date. And I'm just going to select my time zone because that's a required field. And since this course number isn't required, I'm just going to go ahead and skip that and click continue. Typically what this will do, since it's setting up this SAM course, is going to redirect me now and take me out to that SAM homepage. Okay, so it takes me out to the SAM homepage, and it's going to show me all of the assignments that were associated with that course key for that Boat 218 course. So I can see all of my assignments. And actually, if I go back to Ivy Learn and I go into the modules area and I look into like my module 2, and here are my SAM assignments. They've already been linked in this statewide online shell. And these SAM activities reflect the same SAM activities you see on this page here. So now that I have activated or paired my Cengage materials, moving forward, my students will now be able to access my SAM content. Prior to me pairing it, if they would have attempted to access any of these SAM links, they would have received a message stating that their instructor has not set up their content. So if your students are reaching out saying, hey, I'm clicking on the SAM or the MindTap materials, and it's saying that the instructor needs to set it up, just do know that you need to go through that pairing process. Now, we just went through this process for SAM, but the process would be the same even if you were using the MindTap. The only difference is, instead of it in the instructor resources, instead of it saying SAM homepage, it's going to say MindTap homepage. So it would say MindTap homepage. You would click on the MindTap homepage, go out to that pairing key area, locate the appropriate MindTap course key, and put that in during the create a course. Put that in during the create a course time. All right, so just making sure there are no questions that are unanswered in the chat. Looks like, Kathy, you are answering the question, so great. Now this process that we just walked through for pairing or activating content that you're adopting from the statewide online shell, again, if you need a refresher, if you go out to the announcement, there's like a 5 or 7 minute video that walks you through the process. And now that I've activated this content, I have the flexibility to change the content should you decide to make some modifications and not use the statewide template as is. But the first part of the process is ensuring that you have actually activated that content. Okay, so let's talk about if you don't want to use the statewide online content. Perhaps you've already started to develop your own Ivy Learn shell and you've gone in and you've placed modules in that shell, and now you want to bring in your Cengage content. So I am actually going to go out to a different course. So just bear with me. So let me switch to a different course. I'm going to go to another course. And we are, if I go into a different course and I come out into my modules area, I've already gotten started with making my modules. Here's a module 1, a module 2, but at this point in time, I do not have any Cengage content in these modules. And now my goal is to load Cengage content into these modules. So first, let's walk through the process of loading content into the modules using a Mind Tap course. And then just to show you that the process is primarily the same, I'm also going to repeat the process and show you how you would do it for SAM. So the first thing I want to do is to locate and click on this Cengage tool that you see here. Now initially you may not see this tool, so let me show you where you can go to add it if you do not see the tool within this anywhere within your course navigation menu. If you go out to your settings, this is where you can go within Ivy Learn to add items to your navigation screen. So initially, and I did this previously, initially this Cengage tool, it was available in this list of items at the bottom that says that they are hidden. If you want to reveal that tool, then you would just simply drag it and drop it. So for example, if I wanted to show up right after the home page and before the announcements, I'm going to go ahead and drag it and drop it to that area. And then at the very bottom, I am going to click Save. And now you can see that Cengage tool is between the home and the announcements area, exactly the place where I dragged and dropped it in this navigation area. Now it's important to mention that this Cengage item here is not visible to your students. This is for instructor view only, and this is here for the purposes of you setting up your Cengage materials, whether you're using MindTap or SAM or Applia or any other Cengage product. You're always going to click on this Cengage tool that is not visible to students. And a little bit later, we'll go into this student view to give you an idea of what your students see and what the registration process looks like. But I'm going to go ahead and click on where it says Cengage. And again, if this is your first time ever accessing any Cengage materials through Ivy Learn, you're going to be prompted to enter in your Cengage username and password. As I mentioned earlier, since I've already entered my credentials, then it's not asking for me to enter them again. It's just a one-time process. Okay? So the next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and search for my textbook. And so let's assume that I was teaching a MindTap course. Let me pick a book. So let's assume I was teaching a MindTap course with for history, and I wanted to load that content into my Ivy Learn shell. So the first thing that I want to do is search for my textbook within this list. So let's assume I was using a world history text. So I'm just going to type in, since there are quite a few books in here, I'm going to narrow down the search just by typing in world history. And I can see that there are a couple of options for me. So there's the volume 1 book, there's the volume 2 book. So you just want to make sure you're choosing the appropriate text, because the access codes that your students purchase from the bookstore are text specific. So in order for those codes that they're purchasing to work, you have to build your course on the right content. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this volume 1 textbook. And it's going to take me to that course creation screen that we saw earlier. The only difference is, since I am not using the statewide online content, I'm using my own content. So I have a couple of options. I can either create a new MindTap course, and for those of you who are familiar with MindTap, you know that MindTap is a pre-populated course. So even if I say create a new course, I am going to inherit MindTap using all of the existing standardized MindTap activities. If I've used MindTap for this textbook in the past, it doesn't matter even if it was in Blackboard. If I use MindTap in the past and I want to take that same content that I use within Blackboard and copy it into Ivy Learn, then I have the option to copy from one of my existing courses. And since these courses are also associated with your Cengage login credentials, we're going to recognize that you've used this content. It doesn't matter even if that was in Blackboard. So again, your options are to create a new or copy from existing. And this other option, this is if you have a coworker and maybe they say, hey, I've already gone into MindTap and I've made some customizations to it. Would you like to use my course? Then you can use this copy from another instructor, but they would need to provide you with their course key to their course. So for today's purposes, I am just going to say create a new MindTap course. We're going to assume that you've never used MindTap in the past and you just want to start with that existing pre-built MindTap content. And from here, I'm going to just go ahead and name my MindTap section. So if this is my History 101 MindTap, I will just call it History 101 for Summer 17. So here's my course name. I'm going to go ahead and put in a start date. So if my course starts on the 22nd, we're going to go ahead and put the 22nd, and I'll say that it ends in August sometime. I'm going to go ahead and select my time zone, and then I will click continue. So this will take a second, but then it's basically going to redirect me. So at the bottom it says that it's updating my course. And it just lets me know we're about to place a link within Canvas, or you guys are calling it Ivy Learn. We're about to place a link within Ivy Learn to MindTap. So I'm just simply going to click continue. And then now, anytime you initially import content from Cengage, doesn't matter if it's SAM content or MindTap content, when you go out to your modules area, there's typically a module at the very bottom. So here is that History 101 Summer 17 course that I just created. So a couple of things. First of all, anytime you import content from any Cengage product, it brings over this label letting you know the date that you imported it on. You don't have to keep that label. You can easily click on this cog icon to remove it and go ahead and delete that. You'll also notice that this link right here, it is gray. I mean, there's a little gray cloud next to it. So this means basically that I have not published this link and my students will not be able to see it. They can only see items with the green cloud. They can only see published items. So if I want my students to see this, I want to make sure I click on the green cloud. And also, sometimes you may have content within a module. So here's my module, and within this module, I have this link to MindTap. You want to make sure that the module itself is published. Otherwise, the students won't be able to get to that content. Now, as the instructor, you know that this is a link to MindTap, but your students may not necessarily know that because this icon here, this isn't necessarily unique to Cengage like you may be accustomed to within Blackboard where there was that blue circular logo. So with that being said, as a best practice, I like to recommend that instructors edit these links or at least just have one link in there or a couple of links to guide your students to MindTap because they'll have to click on a link for MindTap to register. So with that being said, I'm going to click on this cog and I am going to edit this link. And instead of just calling it History 101, maybe I'll call it MindTap Homepage. And then if I don't want my students, when they click on this link, if I don't want them to go to a window where they have to click an additional button to launch the page, I can uncheck this box, and then basically MindTap will automatically load. But with that being said, MindTap and SIM, they do open in new windows. So you want to make sure you have some type of announcement for your students, letting them know where in your course they can locate MindTap, and also that they need to allow for pop-ups. So that's just information that you can add to your for your students to let them know that they have to allow for pop-ups. So at this point in time, I've created a MindTap course. I've published it for my students. I renamed the link. So now if I were to click on this, it's going to refresh this page and it's going to pop open that MindTap in a new window. And from here, you can go in if you wanted to and make customizations to your MindTap course. So if there were changes to assignments or names or points that you wanted to make, you would do that within MindTap prior to starting to link individual assignments into Ivy Learn. So first of all, there are these different views in MindTap for those of you who are familiar with, and hopefully a majority of you are, you're just seeking help on how to link MindTap to Ivy Learn. But in this unit view here, if I go into these different folders, here is where I can locate that pre-built content for MindTap. So there are videos in here, there are some ebook readings in here, there's even some graded assignments in here so that my students can take. So here's like a check your understanding activity that counts towards a grade. So let's assume that I have made modifications to MindTap, or I've decided which MindTap content I want to use, and I'm ready to bring that content into my Ivy Learn modules, because you have to link your assignments to Ivy Learn if you want those grades to transfer over. So just for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to bring over a couple of assignments into Ivy Learn. So I'm going to bring this Chapter 1 video called Setting the Scene, this Chapter 1 reading titled What Would You Learn? And then let's say I wanted to bring over this Test Yourself graded activity. So what I would do is I'm going to return to Ivy Learn. As I mentioned previously, but I'm just going to continue to stress it, anytime you want to bring new Cengage content or anytime you want to link Cengage content into Ivy Learn, you as the instructor, you always click on this Cengage tool that's only visible to you. So I'm going to click on this Cengage tool. I'm going to go ahead and search for my textbook. So when I type in world history, here is my book here that I selected earlier, this volume 1. And now you can see that there's this orange dialog box open that says that it's linked to a course. So this lets me know that I've already set up my MindTap course within Ivy Learn. So now when I click on this link, it gives me the option to choose from my MindTap content. If you can recall, if I click back on this tab here, in Chapter 1, there were some assignments that I wanted to use. So this same content here is what's reflected in my existing MindTap course. So if I expand this Part 1, here is the Chapter 1 content. I indicated that I wanted to use that setting the scene video. I also wanted to use that what will you learn reading. And if I scroll down, here are my graded activities for Chapter 1. So here's that test yourself activity that I want to use. And you'll notice to the far right of this test yourself, since this is a graded assignment, it has a message that says add to gradebook. So as long as this box is checked, which by default it is, and as long as I've selected the activity, it's going to bring a gradebook column within the Ivy Learn gradebook. So I'll do the same thing for this Chapter 1 reflection activity. So both of these count towards a grade. The orange box is checked, indicating to add these to the gradebook. You can see for this video and for this reading titled, What Will You Learn? There is no gradebook box because these are not graded assignments. Technically, if I wanted to, I can go in and select all of my chapters at once. So if I wanted to select materials from chapters 1 all the way through however many chapters are in this book, I can do that. But just for simplicity for this training, I'm just going to select a couple of items. But if you want to select everything at once, you can. Oh, the other thing that I am going to select would be this technical support link. So this is a great link to have because it allows for you to place a link directly to Cengage within Ivy Learn. So if students have questions or issues, which is a common thing when they're first getting started with a program, they may not know how to use something, or maybe they don't have their system up to date. And instead of them contacting you, and you may not necessarily know how to assist them, you can add a link to Cengage Technical Support. They click on that link, they can file a support ticket, they'll receive a case number and a phone number if they want to call in immediately. So I'm going to confirm my selection. Here are the activities it's just asking me to confirm, and I am going to click Save. And it lets me know that the import is complete. So it has imported, or Ivy Learn has imported those items directly into my modules. So now, if I go out to this modules area and I look at the very bottom, here are those links that I just imported. Again, they're not published at this point in time, so I'm just going to unclick this cloud, this publish cloud on the module, and click it again to publish everything within that module. At this point in time, this is where I can start to organize my content. So since this content is from Chapter 1, I may want to move some of these links around and not leave them here at this very bottom. So for example, for this MindTap homepage, I may want to put this in the resources area for students, and an announcement. I would direct the students to register for MindTap, go to the resources area and click on the MindTap homepage. And then the rest will be self-explanatory, but I again will show you guys the student registration process a little bit later. So let me go ahead and click on this cog. I'm going to move this link. It asks me where would I like to move it to. So I'm just going to say I want to move it to my resources area. And I already have some different links in there from training, but I am going to move it after this SAM homepage link. So I'll go ahead and move it. So now my students know, or it's clear to my students that this is definitely a link to MindTap. And then for those Chapter 1 materials, maybe I want to move them into Module 1. So actually, I'm going to just drag this up here. This is probably quicker. So I'm going to drag this right above that Module 1. And now I'm going to drag my Cengage Materials into Module 1. So here are all of my Chapter 1 materials. And here's the Cengage Tech Support. Maybe I want that in my resources for my students. And if I wanted to just delete this module now that it's empty, I can go ahead and delete it. All right, so that's how you set up MindTap. SAM is exactly the same. If I wanted to set up SAM within an Ivy Learn module, I'm going to go out to Cengage. I'm going to locate my SAM textbook. So let's assume that I was using the textbook for Boat 218. So I'm going to go ahead and select on that text. You can see it's asking me, okay, you're trying to set up SAM within this Ivy Learn shell. What do you want to do? Do you want to create a new SAM course? If I've used SAM in the past in Blackboard, do I want to copy from one of my existing SAM courses, or do I want to copy from a colleague? So just to speed things along, I am going to copy from one of my existing SAM courses. Unlike MindTap, SAM does not come pre-populated with activities. So if you indicate you wanted to create a new SAM course, you would create a SAM course, but it wouldn't have any assignments in it. You would then have to go out to your SAM homepage. You would have to build assignments within SAM, and then once those assignments exist within SAM, you can link them into Ivy Learn. So instead of me starting with a blank, well, actually, I will start with a blank SAM course. So I'm not going to assume that you guys know how to set up a SAM activity, and I know, so I'll just show you. It'll take a couple of minutes. I just want to make sure everybody is clear. So let me first name my course. So let's say this is my boat. Well, this is my Boat 218. So I give my course a name, a start date, end date, and time zone. So we've gone to this screen quite a few times. And so when you see this screen, you'll be fairly familiar with it. So, and we've chosen different options just depending upon the course of action you want to take. So now I've decided to create a new SAM course. I'm going to go ahead and click continue. It'll take a moment to set up this SAM course, but as I mentioned, once you import any links within Ivy Learn, it's going to drop those links into the modules area. And if I go out to my modules now, and I go to the very bottom, here is that link that I just created for SAM. And I may decide to rename this link again by clicking edit to make sure my students know that this is SAM. All right. The next thing I want to do is go out to this SAM homepage, and this is where I can see any assignments that exist within this SAM course that I just created. As I mentioned, if you decide to create a new STEM course as opposed to adopting the statewide course or as opposed to copying your existing. Since I said create new, when I come out to this course, there are no SAM assignments. I have to physically come in here and build these assignments. So there would be no assignments at this point for me to link to Ivy Learn. Sometimes I have people, they create a new SAM course and then they contact me because they'll come out to this Cengage area and they will click on their book and it says that it's linked to a course, but when they come here, they don't see any assignments to link. Well, that's because the assignments, they don't exist within SAM, so there's nothing to link to Ivy Learn. So the first thing this particular instructor would do if they said create a new, the first thing they will want to do is come out to that modules area and launch that SAM homepage link. And then once they're on the SAM homepage, they can easily come in to build their SAM assignments. For those of you who use SAM and you need to build assignments, the quickest way to do that is by using this express creation. And this allows you to set up your assignments like for all of your chapters within less than an hour, no exaggeration. So I'm just going to come out to this express creation and I'm going to create a couple of assignments for my summer Vote 218 section. So I'm going to select my section. Here's my textbook. And I'm just going to really quickly set up a training, exam, and project. So let's say I wanted to set up a training, exam, and project for Chapter 2 of my textbook. So I'm going to choose Chapter 2. Here is the exam that I can set up. All of the great thing about SAM is all of the tasks are already mapped to the different chapters. So I am just going to call this my Chapter 2 SAM exam, or you just may call it like Module 2 exam, whichever is easiest for you. So I'm going to go ahead and name. Here are my different exam options that I can set up. And then I'm just going to click Save Exam. We're not going to go into great detail on creating SAM assignments. I just want to build a couple of assignments to show you how you can link them. And now I'm going to do the same thing for my Module 2 SAM training. I'll just go ahead and name it. My options for that training are to the right. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And anytime I schedule an activity from this express creation, it's just going to put that little green check mark by it. And then if I wanted to choose from one of these 3 projects, I would select the project. And I'm going to call this my Module 2 SAM Project 1B. And here are my project options. I click Save Project. And just like that, I've created these 3 activities. And I know that they're created because if I go back to this SAM assignments area, well, I obviously did something wrong. Bear with me one moment. Let me just go ahead and schedule one activity out. Okay. Well, I have hit a roadblock. So we're going to assume that I've created some SAM assignments because I don't want to waste a lot of time. So once you create your SAM assignments and they appear on this assignments list here, you'll be able to go back out to Ivy Learn. And again, if you want to bring in content, you are going to choose the Cengage option here. Select your book. And then you'll see your SAM activities come up. And for whatever reason, my SAM activities aren't coming up, but we're just going to proceed along and assume that I have some assignments in here to choose from. So for now, I'm just going to select the ebook and this tech support link, confirm my selections, and it's going to bring it over into my modules area. And just like we've been stressing in the past, when you bring those links over, they're going to be unpublished, but you can easily publish them and then drag and drop them into the appropriate module. Now let's talk about the student registration process. So what's changed in the past? So in the past, when your students were registering via Blackboard, they only had to enter in an access code, and that access code came bundled with their textbook. And this was after the move away from inclusive access or include ed at Ivy Tech. So students are now purchasing their materials at the bookstore. Their materials come with a MindTap or SAM access code, and they put it within, in the past it was in Blackboard. So they're still going to have to put in an access code, but the additional step that students will have to take in Ivy Learn would be they have to create a Cengage account. So let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to go out to the settings area, and in the settings there is this student view. So this allows for you to experience your course as a student. As I mentioned, when we place that Cengage tool within this navigation, students don't see it. So that's only visible to you to set up your Cengage material. So that's why when I'm in this student view, I don't see that Cengage icon. And again, you can place an announcement to your students or some type of directions in the modules, letting your students know where they need to go in order to register for Cengage. So let's assume that we had a student and they wanted to register for my history MindTap course that we set up earlier. So here is the MindTap homepage for History 101. They can either click on that link, or if they wanted to click on any of these MindTap links like this Chapter 1 reflection activity, any link to any MindTap activity will prompt for them to register for your materials within MindTap. The reason why I recommend placing that link titled homepage for MindTap is because if I'm a student, yes, this is a reflection activity. I don't necessarily know that this is a MindTap activity because it isn't labeled MindTap. So as a best practice, that's why I recommend labeling at least one link MindTap. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and click on this MindTap homepage as a student. And this is where I mentioned this is new. So students are now encountering this page that lets them know that they need to link to a Cengage account. So here are some benefits of students creating and linking to this Cengage account. First of all, there is a MindTap mobile app. So this allows for the students to view their ebook on that mobile app. They can read that ebook offline. There's like practice quizzes or different alerts that they can send to that mobile app to say, hey, if my instructor placed a due date on this MindTap activity, alert me as that due date approaches. So there are different like little study tools and reminders on that mobile app. But again, a lot of people like that ebook feature and the fact that the students, they don't have to be connected to the internet to view their ebook on that mobile app. They can download it for offline viewing. Another benefit to them now having to create this Cengage account is that if for any reason Ivy Learn goes down, so let's say you guys are doing some type of system update or there's some unplanned maintenance to Ivy Learn and students are locked out of Ivy Learn for 2 or 3 days. Well, now since they have these Cengage credentials that they're creating, they will be able to go directly to CengageBrain.com and access their MindTap materials or access their SAM materials. And even if they complete a graded assignment while Ivy Learn was down, once Ivy Learn comes back up, those grades are going to sync into the Ivy Learn gradebook as long as you've linked those items to the gradebook, like I showed you earlier when you were selecting assignments and it gave you the option to add it to the gradebook. Okay, so this is new. Nothing major here. Students are familiar with creating accounts for Instagram or Snapchat. They do it all of the time. So they're just going to come out here and create themselves a new account. And they're basically putting in an email address. It can be a personal email address or their campus email address. It doesn't matter. They're creating an account. If they already have a Cengage account, maybe they purchased something from Cengage in the past, they can log in with those credentials. So I'm not going to create an account. I'm actually going to say I'll do it later. And as you can see, students, they have the option to delay for up to 14 days that account creation process. Even if they delay it, no work is going to be lost. Everything is all being tracked via Ivy Learn. So you don't have to worry about that. So as a student, I'm just going to go down and accept this service agreement. And now it's going to take me to whichever link I clicked on from Ivy Learn. So I clicked on the home page link. That's why it's taking me out to this home page. If I were to click on one of the assignment specific links, for example, like a test, let's see what happens. If they click on, for example, this test yourself activity, which we know is a MindTap activity, it would open them up to MindTap. Well, it would open them up to MindTap specifically to that link. I'm sorry, you know what? One page that I'm not seeing, and it's probably because the way we set up this book is that my student isn't being prompted to enter in an access code. So your students will also be prompted to enter in an access code, and that access code comes with the purchase of a textbook from the campus bookstore. So that's another screen that they'll see. And there's, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a grace period. The grace period is up to 14 days. And typically the formula is for every week that you teach your course, we give the student 1 day of trial access. So if you're teaching an 8-week course and your students, they're going to get 8 days. And then the cutoff for us is 14 days. After 14 days, then it doesn't matter if you're teaching a 20-week course. We only give the students 14 days of trial access. Okay, so that's how you link your Cengage materials. I'm going to take you out to one final area. So we covered a lot of ground today, and if you're adopting that statewide online content, as I mentioned, there's going to be an announcement in there that helps to guide you through that process. But if you're not adopting the statewide online course, you may want to know what training materials are available to you. So I'm going to go out directly to Cengage.com/D as in digital, C as in course, S as in support. So Cengage.com DCS. You may want to take down this website. It's a very helpful website. And I'm going to go ahead and click enter. Once I go here, the first thing it does, it asks for me to choose my product. So if I'm using MindTap or if I'm using SAM or any other Cengage product, I'll be able to, these are our major products, but you can click on see all products. So let's assume I'm using MindTap. I'm going to go ahead and click on MindTap. Now, this is these are instructions for MindTap in general, but you're not using MindTap General. You're actually using MindTap within Ivy Learn, which is also Canvas. So I want to make sure I am looking up registration instructions or course creation instructions specifically related to Canvas, or in your case, Ivy Learn. So I'm going to click where it says Canvas. And now you can see this says MindTap Canvas. So if I scroll down, there's like an instructor guide for me. If you're like me and you prefer to watch videos, you can see that here's a quick 4-minute video that talks about how to create your MindTap course within Canvas. Here's a quick 3-minute video that shows you how to link your MindTap assignments into Canvas, or Ivy Learn, I'm sorry. And then here's a 4-minute video talking about how to add a technical support link. So, and there are a couple of other videos. Sometimes people say, oh, the grades aren't syncing. Maybe, as I mentioned, Ivy Learn was down and your students went directly to Cengage, and now you want to push those grades through. So there is a manual sync that you can perform by pushing a button. So here's a video that talks about this, and even about copying your Ivy Learn course forward from semester to semester. And if I click on this student tab, here are some MindTap specific for Canvas or Ivy Learn. So if I want to give my student this registration video, maybe I want to grab this video, copy it, and place it within an announcement within Ivy Learn. If I want to give my students written instructions, I can print out this Getting Started guide on Ivy Learn, which basically tells the students, hey, log into your learning management system, access your course, click on any MindTap activity, and then it walks through that registration process. You can see it also lets them know about pop-ups, and it also informs them about the MindTap mobile app. So that covers everything that you would need to know for linking your Cengage materials. Again, if you have questions or you get stuck and you need help, you can reach out to me, and I'm going to bring up my information one more time on this screen if you can see it. So I can be reached at, if you want to email me, it's delilah.wilson@cengage.com. And here is my telephone number if you want to give me a call. And I will definitely get you assisted. So if there are no questions, that will conclude today's training. So I'm just going to go back in and pop out the questions pane to make sure there are no questions. Okay, doesn't look like there are any questions. Yes.
We certainly do appreciate your presentation today. Thank you for taking your time to share with us all that you know, and we look forward to seeing you again, hopefully in the fall.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you for letting me present, and you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Okay, goodbye.